Imagine, if you will, that your desire has already been fulfilled. Feel the joy, the relief, the overwhelming sense of gratitude that accompanies the realization of your deepest wishes. This feeling, this state of being, is the key to unlocking the infinite potential that lies dormant within you. You see, the world around us is nothing more than a reflection of our inner state. What we perceive as reality is merely a shadow cast by the light of our consciousness. And just as a shadow cannot exist without light, our external experiences cannot manifest without the power of our imagination. Consider for a moment the nature of prayer. Many of us have been taught to beseech an external deity, to plead for favors from a being separate from ourselves. But I tell you now, true prayer is not a petition to an outside force. It is a recognition of the divine power that resides within each and each one of us. When you pray, you are not reaching out to a distant God. You are, in fact, awakening to the God within you. This God, this infinite creative force, is not separate from you. It is you in your truest, most essential form. And it is through this understanding that your prayers find their answer. The Bible tells us before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. This is not a promise of some future event, but a statement of an eternal truth. The answer to your prayer exists now, in this very moment. It is not something to be created, but something to be realized. Your task then is not to make your desire come true, but to align yourself with the reality in which it is already true. This is the art of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you can live from the end, when you can experience the joy and gratitude of your desire, as if it were already accomplished, you set in motion the forces that would bring it into your physical experience. Many of you may be thinking, but how can I feel something that hasn't happened yet? To this I say, your imagination is more real than the world you see around you. The physical world is malleable, constantly changing and reshaping itself in response to the images we hold in our minds. Think of it this way. When you plant the seed in the ground, do you dig it up every day to see if it has sprouted? Of course not. You trust in the unseen processes of nature, knowing that in due time the seed will grow into a mighty tree. Your desires are like seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Once planted, they need only your faith and your unwavering assumption of their fulfillment to grow into reality. This is the true meaning of faith. It is not blind belief in something unseen. It is the evidence of things not seen. When you can feel the reality of your desire so vividly that it becomes more real to you than the physical world around you, that is faith. And it is this faith that moves mountains. Now, some of you may be wondering about the role of action in this process. Should you simply sit back and wait for your desires to manifest? Not at all. Action is indeed necessary, but it is inspired action. When you live in the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you'll find yourself naturally guided to take the steps that lead to manifestation. These actions will not feel like struggle or strain. They will feel natural, effortless, as if you are being carried along by an invisible current. This is because you are no longer trying to make something happen. You are simply allowing what is already true in your imagination to express itself in your physical reality. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. Every person, every circumstance you encounter is a reflection of your own consciousness. When you change your inner state, the world around you must change to reflect this new reality. This is not magic or wishful thinking. It is the operation of universal law. Let me share with you a powerful technique to help you maintain this state of living in the end. Before you go to sleep each night, replay in your mind a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it as vivid and as real as possible. Engage all your senses. Feel the emotions you would feel if your desire were already realized. As you drift off to sleep in this state, you are impressing this reality upon your subconscious mind. and it is your subconscious mind that shapes your world. By doing this night after night, you are reprogramming your subconscious to accept this new reality as truth. During your waking hours, whenever doubts or fears arise, and they will, for that is the nature of the human mind, gently return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Do not fight against your negative thoughts. Simply replace them with the feeling of your desire accomplished. This practice requires persistence and patience. You are overcoming a lifetime of habit of seeing yourself as separate from your desires. But I promise you, with consistent application, you will begin to see changes in your world. At first, there may be small synchronicity here, a fortunate coincidence there. But as you persist, these changes will grow larger and more frequent. These changes will grow larger and more frequent until your entire world has reshaped itself to match your inner vision. Now let us address a common concern. Many of you may be thinking, but what if my desire doesn't manifest immediately? What if weeks or months pass and I see no change? To this I say, time is an illusion of the physical world. In the realm of imagination, where all things are possible, time does not exist. Your desire is fulfilled now, in the eternal present moment. The time it takes to appear in your physical reality is determined by your ability to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The more consistently you can live in the end, the more quickly you will see results in your outer world. But do not make the mistake of looking for signs or trying to figure out how your desire will manifest. This is a form of doubt, a denial of the reality of your imaginal act. Your only task is to persist in the assumption that what you desire is already yours. The how and when are not your concern. Trust in the wisdom of your subconscious mind to bring about the fulfillment of your desire in ways that you cannot even imagine. Remember, the outer world is a delayed reflection of your inner state, just as it takes time for light from distant stars to reach the earth. It may take time for the changes in your consciousness to fully manifest in your physical reality. But make no mistake, the change has already occurred the moment you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is why I say to you now, your prayer is about to be answered. In the realm of imagination, where all creation takes place, it is already answered. Your task now is to align yourself with this truth, to live and move, and have your being in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Let us consider for a moment the nature of consciousness. Most of us go through life believing that we are our bodies, our thoughts, our emotions. But I tell you now, you are none of these things. You are pure awareness, the observer of all these phenomena. Your true self is not affected by the circumstances of your life. It is not limited by your past experiences or your current situation. It is infinite, eternal, and all-powerful. When you identify with this true self, you tap into a wellspring of creative power that knows no bounds. This is the meaning behind the biblical statement, I am my Father, or what? Your human personality, with all its limitations and fears, is not separate from the infinite creative power of the universe. They are one and the same. When you truly understand and internalize this truth, you will see that there is nothing you cannot be, do, or have. Now, some of you may be thinking, but what about other people? Don't they have their own free will? How can I manifest a specific person or situation that involves others? To this I say, there are no others. There is only one consciousness, individualized in billions of forms, but ultimately one. The people in your life are playing the roles that you have assigned to them through your beliefs and assumptions. When you change your conception of yourself and others, they must change to reflect your new awareness. This is not about controlling others, but about realizing that the entire world is yourself pushed out. This understanding brings with it a great responsibility. If you are the operant power in your world, if your consciousness is creating your reality, then you must be valid about what you accept as true. Every thought, every assumption, Every belief is a seed that will grow into experience. This is why it is so crucial to guard the door of your mind. Be selective about what you allow to take root in your consciousness. Choose thoughts and assumptions that align with your desires, that reflect the reality you wish to experience. And when you find yourself faced with undesirable circumstances, remember these are not obstacles to be overcome. There are opportunities to practice your power of revision. You can literally revise any event in your imagination. And if you do so with conviction and persistence, you will see your revised version replace the original in your physical experience. This power of revision is not limited to current or future events. You can even revise your past. If there are memories that pain you, experiences that you feel have limited you in some way, you can go back in your imagination and rewrite those scenes. As you do this, you will find that your present circumstances begin to change, aligning themselves with your new revised past. Now, I want to address a question that may be arising in some of your minds. If I have this power to create my reality, why have I experienced hardship and suffering in my life? This is a profound question, and the answer lies in understanding the nature of consciousness and its evolution. You see, your life experiences, both positive and negative, are not punishments or rewards from an external source. They are the natural outpicturing of your state of consciousness. Often we are not aware of our deepest beliefs and assumptions. These subconscious patterns shape our reality without our conscious awareness. The challenges and difficulties you have faced in your life have served a purpose. They have brought you to this moment, to this understanding of your true power. Without them, you might never have sought a deeper truth, never have awakened to your divine nature. Moreover, what we perceive as hardship or suffering is often the breaking down of old patterns to make way for new growth. Just as a caterpillar must struggle to break free from its cocoon, strengthening its wings in the process, so too do our struggles strengthen us and prepare us for higher states of consciousness. But now that you are aware of your power, now that you understand the law of assumption, you no longer need to learn through suffering. You can consciously choose your state of being, and in doing so, choose your experiences. This is the meaning of the biblical injunction to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. As you change your habitual thought patterns, as you cultivate new assumptions about yourself and the world, you literally transform your entire experience of reality. Remember, consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you become. This is why it is so important to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled to life from the end. By doing so, you are choosing to be conscious of your desire as an accomplished fact. As you go through your day, continually remind yourself of this truth. Whatever situation you find yourself in, whatever circumstances you encounter, ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were already fulfilled? Then assume that feeling. Let it permeate your entire being. This practice may feel strange or unnatural at first. Your senses, conditioned by a lifetime of external focus, may rebel against this new way of being, but persist. Remember, your senses show you the world as it was, not as it is. They reflect the beliefs and assumptions you held in the past. As you maintain your new assumption, your senses will gradually align with your new reality. Now, let us delve deeper into the mechanics of manifestation. Many of you may be wondering about the role of detachment in this process. Should you be constantly focused on your desire, or should you let go and let go? The truth is, both attachment and detachment play a role in the manifestation process. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you live from the end, you are attaching yourself to the reality of your desire. You are claiming it as your own here and now. But at the same time, you must detach from the need for your desire to manifest in a particular way or within a specific time frame. This detachment comes naturally when you truly believe in the reality of your imaginal form. Just as you don't anxiously wait for the sun to rise each morning, knowing with certainty that it will, so too should you rest in the certainty that your desire is already yours. This state of relaxed assumption is the key to effortless manifestation. It is the Sabbath spoken of in Scripture, the rest we enter into when we cease from our own labors and allow the Lord to work on our behalf. As you go about your daily life, maintain an attitude of quiet confidence. Know that the entire universe is working to bring about the fulfillment of your desire. Your only task is to remain faithful to your assumption, to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Now, some of you may be experiencing what seems like a delay in the manifestation of your desire. Perhaps you've been practicing these principles for some time without seeing tangible results. To you, I say, do not be discouraged. Remember, what you are doing is reprogramming your entire subconscious mind, overcoming a lifetime of limiting beliefs and assumptions. This process takes time, but it is inevitable. Just a seed planted in the ground will inevitably grow into a plant, so too will your assumption inevitably manifest in your physical reality. The only variable is time, and time is determined by the intensity of your faith and the consistency of your assumption. If you find your faith wavering, if doubts and fears arise, do not fight against them. Simply acknowledge them and return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Every time you do this, you are strengthening your new assumption, making it more and more real to you. Making it more and more real to you. Remember, the outer world is a delayed reflection of your inner state. Continue to live from the end. Continue to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and you will see your world transform before your eyes. Now, let us address another aspect of this work that many find challenging. The concept of everyone is you pushed out. This principle states that every person in your life is a reflection of your own consciousness. They play the roles that you have assigned to them through your beliefs and assumptions. This can be a difficult concept to accept, especially when we encounter people who seem to oppose our desires or who behave in ways that cause us pain. But I urge you to consider, if everyone is you pushed out, then changing others becomes as simple as changing yourself. Instead of trying to manipulate or control others, focus on changing your conception of them. See them as you would like them to be. Assume that they are already behaving in ways that align with your desire. As you do this consistently, you will be amazed at how their behavior towards you begins to change. This principle extends beyond individual relationships to encompass your entire world experience. The events you see on the news, the state of the economy, the condition of the environment, all of these are reflections of collective human consciousness. And as an individualization of that consciousness, you have the power to influence these collective states through your own assumptions. Imagine the implications of this understanding by assuming a state of peace and harmony within yourself. You contribute to the manifestation of peace in the world. By assuming abundance and prosperity, you play a part in creating a more prosperous world for all. This is the true meaning of being the change you wish to see in the world. It is not about external action, although inspired action will naturally flow from your changed state. It is about embodying the state of consciousness that corresponds to your desired reality. As you practice living from the end, as you persistently assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you will begin to experience what I call signs following. These are external events and circumstances that confirm your new assumption. They may seem like coincidences or strokes of good fortune, but they are in fact the natural results of your changed consciousness. When you experience these signs following, do not make the mistake of becoming overly excited or attached to them. Simply acknowledge them as confirmation that the law is working and continue to live from the end. Remember, Your desire is not something to be achieved in the future. It is a present fact in your imagination, and it is from this present fact that you must live. Now, I want to address a common misconception about this work. Many people believe that the law of assumption can only be used for material gain or personal advantage. Nothing could be further from the truth. The highest use of this law is for spiritual awakening and the realization of your true divine nature. As you practice living from the end, as you cultivate the ability to assume states of consciousness at will, you are in fact preparing yourself for the ultimate assumption, the realization of your oneness with God. This is the true purpose of all desire, to lead you back to your divine source. Every desire you have, whether for material success, loving relationships, or personal growth, is ultimately a desire for the feeling those things will give you, and that feeling is a state of consciousness, a way of being. As you master the art of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are mastering the art of consciously choosing your state of being. This is why I say that desire is the august messenger of God. It is through our desires that we are led to explore different stored effortlessness, different ways of being. And through this exploration, we eventually come to realize our true nature as infinite, eternal beings of pure awareness. So do not judge your desires as good or bad, spiritual or material. All desires serve the ultimate purpose of awakening you to your true self. Embrace them, use them as opportunities to practice the law of assumption, and watch as they lead you to ever higher states of consciousness. As we conclude, remember this: your prayer is already answered. The power to manifest your desires lies within you. It's not about making things happen, but aligning with the reality where they've already occurred. Your imagination is the creative force shaping your world. What you consistently imagine and feel as real will inevitably manifest. This isn't wishful thinking, but a fundamental law of consciousness. Practice living from the end. Feel the joy and gratitude of your fulfilled desire. Let this feeling permeate your being. As you maintain this state, your outer world will reshape itself to match your inner vision. Remember, everyone and everything in your life reflects your consciousness. Change your conception of yourself and others, and watch as your reality transforms. Persistence is key. Your only task is to remain faithful to your assumption. Trust in the perfect timing of the universe. Release attachment to how or when your desire will manifest. Release attachment to how or when your desire will manifest. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice revision. You can rewrite any event in your imagination, changing your past and present. Your desires are divine messages leading you to explore different states of consciousness. Embrace them as stepping stones to spiritual awakening. As you master the art of conscious assumption, you're preparing for the ultimate realization, your oneness with the divine. This is the true purpose of all desire and manifestation. Go forth with the knowledge that you are the operant power in your world. Your consciousness creates your reality. Live from this understanding and watch as miracles unfold in your life. Your prayers is answered. Your desire is fulfilled. It is done.
There comes a moment in every human life where silence speaks louder than memory. When the weight you've been carrying, the burden of what happened, what didn't, what should have finally grows too heavy to justify keeping. And in that sacred moment, the soul whispers something not taught in books, not preached in temples, not heard in the noise of this busy world. It says, let it go. Not out of weakness, not because you lost, but because the story you're repeating is no longer worthy of the divine being you are becoming. We are not born with our stories. We gather them. We inherit them from those who were wounded before us. We craft them from misunderstandings, from pain, from moments when love seemed absent. And then, like a script we never agreed to, we recite them again and again. He left me. She betrayed me. They never saw me. I was never enough. This always happens to me. And so we live in the echo of what was, even while life tries with all its miracles to remind us of what is. But my friend, listen to me with the ears of your soul. You are not your history. You are not your suffering. You are not the wound. You are the healing. You see, the story is just a frame, a container, a garment worn by the ego to prove its existence. But the lesson is eternal. It's what your soul came here for. And the universe, that sacred, intelligent field of love, it does not waste experience. Everything you've walked through, everything that broke you open, everything that left you trembling in the dark was a curriculum, not a punishment, a passage, but only if you drop the story. As long as you hold the tale, the villain, the victim, the blame, you are trapped in time. Your spirit becomes entangled in yesterday's fog, and what you cannot release, you are doomed to repeat. You may say, but it's true. It happened. I was hurt. I was abandoned. I was left behind. And you are right. It did happen. But you have chosen to keep the wound alive through the repetition of its narrative. Let me offer you something radical, something freeing. Truth is not in the facts of the past. Truth is in the freedom of the present. You do not heal by replaying the moment. You heal by retrieving the power it stole. That's what it means to drop the story and keep the lesson. The story says, I was unloved. The lesson says, now I know how deeply I crave presence. I will offer that to myself. The story says, I was betrayed. The lesson says, I now see the importance of self-trust. The story says, my childhood was broken. The lesson says, I carry within me the ability to reparent, to rebuild, to renew. This isn't denial. This is transcendence. You were never meant to live forever inside the storm. You were meant to walk through it and come out cleaner, clearer, stronger. The ego will tell you that to drop the story is to let them off the hook. But the soul knows you were never meant to hold them on the hook. You were meant to free yourself. Forgiveness is not the reward for someone else's apology. It's the sacred key that opens the door to your own peace. There is a beautiful truth that every mystic, every teacher, every awakened being comes to understand. What happens outside of you is not who you are. You are the awareness behind the experience. You are the stillness behind the noise. You are the one who watches the storm pass, not the storm itself. And when you drop the story, something miraculous happens. You remember your divine identity. You remember that before the hurt, before the name, before the form. You were light, and light does not cling to shadows. Letting go is not forgetting. It's honoring. It's saying, I respect this chapter enough to close it. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the moment you rise above the battlefield and recognize no one wins when you keep reliving your wounds. Healing does not come through analysis. It comes through surrender. You will not solve your past. You will release it. Like a bird from its cage, like a flame from the candle, like a soul from its shackles. And then you will feel it, the space, the breath, the possibility. It returns. When the story dies, the soul finally speaks. It says, you were never broken, only buried beneath beliefs. It says, this pain was never meant to define you, only to refine you. It says, there is no moment more sacred than the one you are in now. Drop the story, keep the lesson, because the lesson is gold, my friend. It's grace wrapped in fire, It's the seed of compassion, of insight, of power. It's the reason you can sit beside someone else's pain and say, I see you. I've been there. I walked through it and I made it out. You become a healer not by fixing others, but by becoming the living proof that healing is possible. But first, you must unclench the past. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. You must return to that still holy place within where no story, no identity, no title, no trauma can exist. Only presence, only peace, only the now. Because in the now, there are no wounds, no resentment, no regret, only this breath and the divine being breathing it. So let it go. Let the old narrative fall like autumn leaves. Let the echoes fade. Let the images dissolve. And in that clearing, in that stillness, watch what rises. It will not be bitterness. It will not be fear. It will not be the voice of the past demanding your loyalty. It will be you, the real you, the untouched you, the soul that chose this life not to be defined by its suffering, but to alchemize it into light. And from that light, you will speak new words. Not words of pain, but of power. Not stories of survival, but songs of resurrection. This is the sacred invitation. Drop the story, keep the lesson, and become the truth beneath it all. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become from it. And my dear friend, you were always meant to become free. And so here you are, standing at the edge of who you've been and who you're becoming, a quiet threshold, a sacred moment not marked by applause or ceremony, but by something deeper, a choice not to fight the past, not to defend it, but to release your identification with it. It's tempting to believe the old story keeps you safe, that if you keep it close, you won't forget, you won't be hurt again. But that's not safety, that's stagnation. Life, in its infinite wisdom, is always asking you to evolve, to rise, to return. And to return, you must empty your hands. You cannot receive the gifts of this moment with fingers clenched around yesterday. You must become willing to live undefended, to open the door and walk naked into the now unarmored, unburdened, unafraid. Because life doesn't meet you where you were. It meets you where you are. When you drop the story, you become available again. Available to love, available to grace, available to a version of yourself that your old wounds would have never believed possible. And perhaps that is the point. To stop identifying as the wounded one and start remembering you are the witness. You are the one who sees not just what happened, but what is happening now. Look around you. Notice the breeze. Feel your breath. Sense the silence beneath these words. There is a field of being here still, sacred, waiting. And in that field, there is no need for defense, for comparison, for memory. There is only awareness. And from that awareness, forgiveness becomes possible. Not as a favor to the past, but as a gateway to the present. Forgiveness is the great unclenching. It is the moment you stop trying to re-script what happened and instead begin writing a new truth, one authored by your awakening, not your agony. You see, when you drop the story, you do not erase your life. You finally begin to live it. You are not here to be right about what hurts you. You are here to become free from it. You are not here to convince others of your pain. You are here to transmute it into power. And that transformation does not require a courtroom. It requires only your willingness to let the light in. The light doesn't need your defense. It only needs your surrender. Let go of the illusion that you must carry everything forward, that every scar must be visible, that every betrayal must be remembered. The soul remembers differently. It does not store stories. It stores lessons and love, and even the most painful moments, once seen through the eyes of the soul, become holy. They become teachers, messengers, gateways to depth, to empathy, to truth. There is a reason why those who've suffered often shine with the most compassion. Because once the story is dropped, only love remains. Not naive love, but earned love. The kind that says, I have walked through the fire, and I no longer need to fear the flame. You become a lighthouse. Not because your waters were always calm, but because you learned to shine anyway. That is the alchemy. To stop needing anyone to pay. To stop trying to make it fair. And instead, to become whole. You cannot become whole while holding the pieces of the past, like proof of injury. You become whole when you place them down and remember that nothing essential was ever truly broken. You've always had your wholeness. It was just waiting beneath the noise. Drop the story and watch what returns to you. Joy, not happiness manufactured by circumstance, but the quiet joy of being, of knowing you don't have to carry it anymore, that your worth was never tied to your struggle. Peace. Not the fragile kind that comes from controlling others, but the lasting kind that blooms when you stop controlling yourself. Love, not the kind that begs to be rescued, but the kind that is the rescue. When the story is gone, you become available to life again, to the sunrise, to the laughter of children, to the grace hidden in ordinary moments. You find yourself smiling for no reason. You find yourself crying, not from sorrow, but from the sudden beauty of existence. You begin to remember that your life was never meant to be a courtroom of memory. It was always meant to be a temple of presence. And presence does not argue with the past. It breathes. So breathe into this moment. Breathe into the stillness that asks for nothing but your presence. You don't have to relive the wound. You don't have to prove the pain. You are allowed to let go without permission. You are allowed to be free now. This moment doesn't need your story. It needs your surrender. And when you surrender, the lesson comes forward. It rises like light from beneath the rubble. It hums with truth, with grace, with the gentle wisdom of your highest self. You are not who they said you were. You are not the sum of what they did. You are not the echo of the moment you broke. You are the quiet strength that rose. You are the healing that began. You are the lesson, not the loss. And you are here now, not by accident, but by design, to live, to love, to awaken. Drop the story, my friend. Let it fall like an old robe. Let it dissolve like a name you no longer answer to, because you were never that story. You were always free. There is a moment in every awakening where the soul begins to question not just the past, but the identity born from it. Not the events, not the memories, but the personality that was built to survive them. You see, the story does not only live in your words, it lives in your habits, in your posture, in your self-talk, in the way you tighten when someone gets too close, or in the way you chase achievement, hoping it will finally hush that old inner voice that once said you weren't enough. The story becomes a costume. It wears you. And after a while, you forget it was ever a choice. You call it me, my personality, my edge, my wounds. But it's not you. It's the version of you that rose to defend the most tender parts of your spirit. The child who stopped asking for love. The teenager who stopped trusting softness. The adult who learned how to perform, achieve, impress just to feel seen. The story taught you those strategies. And for a time, they served you. They protected the innocent part of your being until you were strong enough to return and claim it. But now you are strong enough. Now you can feel the exhaustion beneath your masks. Now you can hear the whispers of the soul beneath the noise of your proving. And the soul says, softly, always softly, you can take it off now. You don't have to be the character anymore. You can come home. This is not about rejecting your past. It's about reclaiming yourself from it. Because the real you, the one you came here to embody, is not the survival strategy. It is the sacred essence that existed before the story and will exist after every narrative dissolves. Let me tell you something the world rarely says out loud. You don't need more improvement. You don't need more achievement. You don't need more validation. You need more truth. And the truth is this: you were always worthy. You were always enough. You were always whole. Not because you earned it, not because you achieved spiritual perfection, but because you were created from something sacred. Call it God, call it source, call it life, universe, or divine intelligence. But know this: what made you does not make mistakes. And it did not put you here to carry wounds like trophies. You are not here to be a monument to what happened. You are here to be a channel for what's possible. And what is possible, dear soul, is peace. Not the peace of silence in a quiet room, but the peace of knowing you are not chained to the past. Not the peace of others liking you, but the peace of liking yourself enough to let go. This is the revolution. Not outside, but within, where you look at your reflection and finally say, I am not the events that shaped me. I am the spirit that chose to grow through them. You begin to recognize the difference between pain and identity. You begin to feel the quiet ache of self-betrayal every time you shrink to match your old story. And slowly, courage is born. Not loud, not flashy, but steady. The courage to let love in again. The courage to admit that your old armor is too small. The courage to imagine that maybe, just maybe, freedom is not found in controlling the future or analyzing the past, but in being fully here. You begin to tell the truth not to others first, but to yourself. You begin to notice when you're reenacting the old roles. You begin to ask, who am I when I'm not performing? Who am I when I'm not protecting? Who am I when I'm not trying to be what others expect? And the answers are breathtaking. You find softness. You find strength. You find a depth of being that cannot be captured in a story, only lived in presence. You discover that joy does not come from fixing what was. It comes from loving what is. You begin to see beauty in strange places, in the way your breath returns after a deep sigh, in the way the sunlight lands on a quiet room, in the way a tear rolls down your cheek, not from sadness, but from relief. The relief of no longer needing to carry it all. You can be gentle now, with yourself, with the past, with others who are still lost in their own stories, because you know something they don't yet. That pain does not make you special. It makes you human. And being human is not a flaw, it's the doorway to divine awareness. Only in this human form can you practice compassion. Only in this human heart can you learn forgiveness. Only in this human mind can you choose to see with the eyes of spirit. So choose to drop the narrative that says, I'll be free when. Choose to release the belief that your story must be understood by everyone else. Choose to trust that your healing is your own and it is enough. This is the quiet miracle, not lightning bolts, not sudden transformation, but the steady unfolding of a new way of being where you no longer have to be the one who was hurt You can now be the one who woke up. And waking up means you don't need to relive it. You don't need to perform it. You don't need to justify it. You just live as freedom. You begin to walk not toward wholeness, but from it. You speak not to prove anything, but to bless everything. You look at the world with eyes that see beyond form, beyond ego, beyond role, and into essence. Because you've seen yourself that way. And now nothing else will satisfy. So bless the past. Bow to the teachers it gave you. Thank the storm for carving rivers into your soul. And then release it, like breath, like birds, like prayers whispered into wind. Because what's ahead is not more repetition, but revelation. Not more pain, but peace. Not more story, but self. You are not here to repeat. You are here to remember. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember what it feels like to breathe without guilt, to love without fear, to live without apology. This remembering is the holy work of a lifetime. And it begins not with a battle, but with surrender. So surrender now. Surrender the identity that survived. And let the soul that thrives lead. And now, as the dust of all your retellings begins to settle, as the courtroom of memory closes its weary doors, as the heart, once guarded by storylines and scar tissue, finally exhales, you arrive. You arrive not in some polished version of yourself, not in some far-off enlightened state, but here now, raw, unburdened, and awake. You are not stepping into a future. You are stepping out of a prison. And that prison was never your pain. It was the identity you wrapped around it. It was the belief that the wound defined you, that the scar was your signature. But now, like a snake shedding its skin, you feel it loosening. The old story, the character you played so convincingly, the mask that once protected you now simply itches, and beneath it all is you, the true you, not the version that flinches in self-doubt, not the version who needs applause or explanation, but the deep, aware, sacred presence who has always been watching, waiting, remembering. Can you feel the difference? The silence is no longer hollow. It is holy. The stillness is not absence. It is essence. This moment right here is not a pause in your life. It is the return of your life. You are no longer searching for meaning in your history. You are now making meaning from your healing. And this is where the story ends, not with vengeance, not with resolution, but with reverence. You begin to look back, not with resentment, but with blessing. Not because what happened was right, but because what grew from it is beautiful. You start to whisper to your past self, thank you for surviving. Thank you for carrying us here. But now you can rest because the war is over. The version of you that lived in defense is no longer needed. The version of you that fought for love, begged for recognition, cried in silence, that version has earned its peace. Let it rest. Let it dissolve like mist at sunrise. Let the old armor fall to the earth like autumn leaves, with gratitude, with gentleness, with grace. Because now you are no longer armored. You are luminous. You are no longer trying to be heard. You are listening. You are no longer performing for belonging. You are belonging to yourself. And that is the ultimate freedom. No longer performing, no longer defending, no longer explaining who you are because your presence does all the speaking. You walk into rooms not wondering how people see you, but carrying the peace of someone who sees themselves. You speak not to prove, but to offer presence. You love not to possess, but to participate in the miracle of connection without clutching, without fear. You forgive not because they asked, but because your freedom matters more than their recognition. You breathe not to calm yourself, but because your breath is now home. This is what it means to drop the story. It is not erasure. It is emancipation. It is the radical act of no longer letting your past become your prophecy. And the most extraordinary part, you do not need to try to be this way. You simply need to stop trying to be what you're not. Because underneath every story, there is a soul, untouched, unchained, unshakable. That's you. That's what remains when the ego's theater closes and the light shines through the cracks in your identity. That's what God sees when you're not pretending. And in that space, you no longer need to be fixed. You only need to be felt. You no longer need permission to move on. You only need the courage to be still long enough to see you are always whole. And in this seeing, life becomes less of a race and more of a rhythm. You begin to move with the music of now, no longer trying to skip to the good part, no longer stuck on the worst chapter. You begin to live in harmony with presence. And presence, dear soul, is everything. It's the medicine. It's the altar. It's the final destination that was never far away. Presence is where you finally feel what your story never allowed you to feel. It's where the tears rise, not from pain, but from relief. It's where you look around and suddenly nothing is missing. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer resisting the imperfection. This is what freedom tastes like. It's not loud. It's not wild. It's not external. It is the quiet knowing that you can breathe without justifying your joy, that you can rest without guilt, that you can shine without explanation. You are no longer auditioning for peace. You are peace. You are no longer seeking love. You are love. You are no longer chasing light. You are the light revealed by the very letting go you once feared. And now, what remains? Only your soul, your quiet, radiant, sovereign soul, the you that came before the pain, the you that lived through the storm, the you that rises now, not from anger, not from shame, but from deep spiritual remembrance, that you is who you were always meant to become. Not a better version, not a fixed version, but a true version. And in that truth, you become a presence that heals without effort. A mirror for others, not of perfection, but of possibility. People will feel it. They will sense it in your stillness. They will wonder how you carry such peace, such clarity, such unshakable calm. And if they ask, you won't need to explain. You'll simply smile and say gently, I dropped the story and I kept the lesson. And in those words is a life, is a path, is a practice, is a love so deep it cannot be taught, only lived. So walk now, not in search, but in remembrance. Walk not with a plan, but with presence. Walk not as someone with something to prove, but as someone who has already arrived, because you have, this is the arrival. This is the letting go. This is the peace beyond the story. So breathe in the silence. Breathe in the freedom. Breathe in the soul you've finally come home to. Drop the story. Keep the lesson. And live, truly live as the freedom you were always destined to be.